Hello folks, Garmin here. I'm here to do a quick demonstration of the Project Dalek Forum voice modulator Mk6. This is more of a demo than a review because I don't really feel qualified to compare it to any other voice modulators, and it's also slightly biased because I think the Project Dalek Forum is great and I want to support them. But on the other hand, they don't know I'm doing this, they haven't asked me to do this, and they didn't give me this. I paid the normal £100 for this unit. The Project Dalek Forum Modulator Mk6 is built in small batches. The situation in the UK at the minute recently has been that they're built in very small batches and they sell out quickly. So I'm very glad I managed to obtain one. They do get built in other countries by different people, so there are slightly different versions, I understand. So this particular one's purchased in the UK in September 2020. So what do you get with it? Well, it's basically just the unit itself and a little packet of connectors. So there were 3 connectors in here. One is for the power input, which is here, and these other 2 are for the lighting outputs here. And quite nicely, they're all different designs, so you can't accidentally plug the power input into the outputs, which could damage the unit. I understand there are some versions which don't have this feature, but mine does, so that's quite nice. The power connector I've already soldered onto wiring here to connect it to power, but as you can see, it doesn't go into the wrong sockets, it only goes in here. So that's good. That's literally all that comes with it. There is a rather nice instruction booklet which you can download as a PDF from the forum itself, so that will give you all sorts of details. Very briefly, the connectors on the unit are power input on this side, power switch. On the top you have microphone input, you have a trigger input, which is for a switch to trigger the gun sound effect. You have adjustment knobs, which are a volume and a tone knob. On the bottom you have power outputs, which are for the dome lights and for a gun light. And on the top we have indicator LEDs that tell you what those are supposed to be doing. And on the bottom we also have the speaker output terminals, and no connectors on that side. So you need to provide other parts yourself, such as a microphone. You could, for example, use the headset from a smartphone, a wired headset, which has got a little microphone built in. The problem with that is the connectors in these, which is a TRRS connector, isn't compatible with the microphone input socket on the unit. I found that it worked when I made up this adapter, but honestly, the cost of getting the parts of this adapter, you might as well just buy a more suitable microphone, which costs about the same. I paid about £5 for this headset microphone from Amazon, and it's pretty good. It has this headband microphone with a very easily and finely adjustable boom on it, and a simple TRS connector on the wire here, which is directly compatible with the unit without needing any adaptation. So that's good. Lighting, you connect lighting of your preferred type to these outputs. So I've got 2 incandescent bulbs here, BA15S fittings. These are 10-watt bulbs. I'm going to plug them into the dome output there. Stick them down with blue tack to try and keep them in shot. You also need a speaker, of course. The manual says this should be 4 or 8 ohms and at least 30 watts power. So I've got this is a 3-inch speaker. It came as a pack of 2, in fact, and I'm intending to use both in my Dalek. I'm just going to use one for demonstration today. And this one is 4 ohms, 80 watt. When I put the 2 together, I'll be using the 2 in series for a total of 8 ohms. And not in parallel, because that would produce something less than 4 ohms, which could be a problem. Alright, so speaker connectors go in there onto spring connections on the bottom of the unit. The power cable comes off at the side here, and I've wired it up to this battery, so this is what I intend to use in my Dalek as well. It's a 12 volt 2.8 amp hour battery. Plug that in there. I'll just put on my headset. All right. And then I just flick this switch on the side of the unit and we will get our power.
We will get our power. We will get our power. We will get our power.
So there you are. So it is set by default to 30 Hertz modulation frequency, which is suitable for most of the classic 60s Dalek stories. Notice the light bulbs. The light bulbs vary in intensity depending on how loud you're speaking, how loud your input to the microphone is. So adjusting the volume knob doesn't affect that. They're not quite as sensitive as I was expecting, and maybe that's to do with them being incandescent bulbs. You see, if I just speak normally like this, they're hardly lighting up at all. Whereas if I hum directly into the microphone, they light up a bit more. So LEDs might work better than incandescent bulbs. I'm wondering if I should try and connect this to some kind of external relay to trigger the bulb so that it looks more like a person pressing a doorbell button. But obviously, if you want 100% authenticity, you would just trigger the lights yourself with some kind of doorbell button. Now, obviously, when you're trying to do the voice, the modulator doesn't do all of it for you.
If I just talk into it, it just sounds like me talking, only a bit weird. So obviously, you have to do a Dalek impression if you want to say, "I am your servant. I am your servant. Orders received. Exterminate all humans. Exterminate all humans. Exterminate, annihilate, destroy. Daleks conquer and destroy. Daleks conquer and destroy." I also want to show you what's inside it. There are just 4 screws on the back, which I've already taken off. Hey, this thing's full of controls in here. Should I try a few?
There's this row of jumpers down here which can be used to change the modulation frequency depending on which TV story or film you're trying to reproduce. So, as I mentioned, by default they're set to 30 Hertz.
Over 500 years ago, there were 2 races on this planet, we the Daleks and the Thals. After the Neutronic Wars, our Dalek forefathers retired into the city, protected by our machines. Most of them perished in the war, but we know that there are survivors. They must be disgustingly mutated, but the fact that they have survived tells us they must have a drug that preserves their life force.
But, as I said, you can swap these jumpers around to get a different modulation rate depending on what story you're trying to replicate. So let's say we want to go right up to the 1980s, which is a rate of 32 Hertz for Remembrance of the Daleks. And to do that, I have to swap 2 jumpers over, like so.
Small human female sighted on level 3. Under attack. Under attack. Vision impaired. Danger. Instability. Nuclear reaction out of control.
Or let's say you want to go for the unusually high modulation rate of the Daleks master plan, which is 42.8 Hertz. At least that's the closest the modulator can do. And I just have to take off 1 jumper to achieve that.
Marvik Chen, you will accompany the task force. You will ensure the uranium core is returned to Kimbo.
Or let's say you prefer the 70s and you want to replicate Genesis of the Daleks. Closest equivalent available to that is 28.7 Hertz.
We are entombed, but we live on. This is only the beginning. We shall prepare. We shall grow stronger. When the time is right, we shall emerge and take our rightful place as the supreme power of the universe.
Or let's say you want to go for a more up-to-date portrayal from the new series, the ones Nick Briggs has done for the bronze Daleks from 2005 onwards, and that is approximately 25.6 hertz.
Doctor, the Doctor, exterminate, exterminate, exterminate. You are an enemy of the Daleks. You must be destroyed. So yeah, if you use that setting, then you would make a good Dalek.
Or let's say you want to go for an even lower rate as was used in the Chase, 14.5 hertz. So I have to put that one on. Now obviously your results may vary. If you're able to do a better Dalek impression than I can, then your results will sound better. But if you practice, then you may be able to say,
success, paramount success. It is impossible to distinguish from the original.
So those are some of the many frequency options. I'm not sure what all of them are for. Maybe they're not all intended to be used for a particular story, but those are some of the major ones. I'm going to keep mine at 30 hertz because I'm building a Power of the Daleks Dalek, and that's what I want. So I'm going to pop the lid back on again. All right, so there it is. Really just one more thing to demonstrate for you, which is the gun effect function. So I'm going to switch over my lighting. Instead of being in the dome lights socket, I'm going to plug it into the gun socket. So the idea here is that you can use this to put a light in your Dalek's gun, or perhaps a motor, and it will simultaneously generate a sound effect to the same speaker that the voice comes out of. You can do this by plugging into the trigger some kind of camera shutter release. I'm going to use this audio adapter, which I'm going to short out for you so you can
see and hear the effect. So, exterminate, exterminate, exterminate! And so, yep, that's quite a nice extra feature. I'm not sure I'll be using it for my Dalek,
since the sound effect is not really appropriate for the 60s era. So general impressions, it's brilliant. What it does for the money I find very impressive. The fact that it has the switchable frequencies is great. There are other options in there which I didn't show you to do with having distortion or not having distortion, and making it compatible with different types of microphones. So it's a wonderful piece of design. It's very compact. The casing it comes in is very sturdy. Shortcomings, well, I'm not convinced by the dome lighting effects, as I said, and maybe there's a way of
improving that with external relays, maybe with LEDs, it might behave better. I do want the lights to look as if they're charging and discharging, because they're supposed to be incandescent bulbs. They don't come on instantly.
But because the output is proportional to the sound input, it doesn't just immediately switch it to getting 12 volts, which is what it would need to really look like an original Dalek. So maybe I'll try and customize that with some external circuitry. So overall, a brilliant unit, very compact, very easy to use. Really the only real downside to them is that the supply is limited. So when you see them on sale or hear about them being on sale, I would recommend that you jump on it. A very good value piece of equipment. All right, thank you very much for listening. I hope that was helpful to somebody. Bye for now.